Happy Sunday, everybody, or maybe not, because it's been a rough week of Arkansas basketball. 0-2. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Kamiko. This is your Hog Hoops Report. Kevin, like I said, tough week. 0-2 for the Hogs, getting blown out earlier this week against Tennessee, then going on the road and losing a really late lead to a Mississippi team, ultimately falling 71-68. What is your biggest takeaway from this whole week? We could start with one game. We could start with both. Kevin, I'll leave it up to you for this one.
It's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if not for Joseph Pinion one at the end of the game against Tennessee, Arkansas is looking at a second 32-point loss at home in that building. The first one was in the SEC opener against Auburn. It represents the largest losing deficit in history of that building, 30 years, 500 plus games. And Arkansas almost matched it a few weeks later, a couple of months later, or just over a month later. But a 29-point loss, nothing went right in that game. Very good Tennessee team. Don't need to spend a lot of time on that. But that was one version of Arkansas. Then the Hogs go on the road where they have just the lone win at the worst team's home court, Missouri, a few weeks ago. Still winless in league play, I think. And Arkansas wins that game. And so this was another chance to build on that. 1-4 in road games, and you're thinking, well, this is a better defensive team than Arkansas seen on the road for the most part. This is a team that's top 35 in net, but it's not flawless. This is a Mississippi State team that's probably underperformed relative to preseason expectations as well, but still on a path to fight for postseason. Arkansas was playing similarly, like it was playing for postseason. So that's a positive, especially coming off what the arc of this season's looked like. The 5 losses of more than 20 points, including Tennessee being the most recent. It just easy to let everything slide off the table, and it looked like a total.
Mm-hmm.
So, that to me, that's a positive. You still lose the game. You mentioned losing the lead late. Arkansas did have a couple of one possession leads, 2 or 3 late. The final one on a L. Ellis drive into the paint. Arkansas went up 67-65. With about 1:07 left. The guard for Mississippi State he drives to his left for a pull-up three. Neither team shot well from three, but Hubbard hits 3 of their 5 threes, and he made, or 4 threes, I think they only made, but he hit 3 of them, but he hit this one. And then that put Mississippi State up by a point with 58 seconds left, and that was it. Arkansas did not execute down the stretch, had a couple of good looks after calling a timeout. Makai Mitchell, who had a great game, 21 points, 9 rebounds, couple of blocks. Missed about a 6-footer. It looked good, but it didn't stay in. Chandler Lawson battles on the offensive glass where Arkansas got beat most of the game relative to Mississippi State. And then somehow the rim blocked his shot, it looked like. There was traffic in there. I don't know if he got fouled, but he couldn't get the ball over the rim. He was right beside the goal and failed to get the ball. So 2 opportunities there. Then Arkansas has to foul. Mississippi State misses a couple. Arkansas's got a chance again to take the lead, only down 1, and they turn it over in the paint. Devo drove, tried to dish to Makai in traffic. The ball squirted through, turnover, and then Mississippi State goes I think 3 or 4 from there to win by 4. So you're right, a 6-0 run in the last 58 seconds. Arkansas was ahead by 2, loses by 4. But you like to see the battle, especially against a tough physical team. It was pretty lopsided on the offensive glass. That was probably the biggest area of concern in this game. But Arkansas started getting some offensive rebounds down the stretch, at least trying to, show some proof of life and that they're going to give themselves a chance to win, which is exactly what happened. Eric Musselman wasn't happy about the free throw discrepancy. He ought to be happy that Mississippi State's not a good free throw shooting team. Otherwise, it's probably another double-digit loss on the road, Evan.
Yeah, and Kevin, when you really look at this game, Makai Mitchell, like you said, he had a big day, 21 points and a couple of boards and even 2 blocks he had. But at the end of the day, this drops Arkansas now to 3-9 in the conference and 12-13. The first time Arkansas has been under 500 at all under Eric Musselman in his 5 years here. So again, it feels like a dismal season for Arkansas. Even in this game, Jalen Graham gets hurt. Keon Manyfield is hurt. Trevin Brazil is still out. And the team, we haven't seen the connectiveness that you've seen in years past. And I know you sent out a tweet the other day of a bunch of just stats from the last, 48 games of just trends for how this Arkansas team is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because Arkansas went to a Sweet 16 last year, which then was the bookend for 2 previous seasons when you went to Elite Eights. Those 2 Elite Eight seasons, Arkansas started slow in league play, finished second in the first Elite Eight season, followed by a top 4 finish, and then getting that double bye. If you finish top 4, you get the double bye. to the SEC tournament quarterfinals. So both of those seasons, they turned around bad league starts and had just great seasons. Last year was not a great season. It finished great. You make it to the Sweet 16, that's significant, especially given the youth on Arkansas, some of the injuries. But 8-10 in league play. 8-10 in league play was good for 10th place. When you start looking back and take just the start of league play last year to where Arkansas is now, you could chop it up many ways. 6-14 in their last 20 games in the SEC. 11-19 in their last 30 games in the SEC. When you add in non-conference play this year, NCAA tournament last year, get to the Sweet 16, the SEC tournament last year, and the entirety of the SEC play last year, Arkansas's 23-25 overall, all games in their last 48 games. So, you mentioned the first time being under 500 from us. You mentioned some of the, we talk about some of these historical losses, losing 5 league games. That had never happened before by more than 20 points. So all these things start to show you maybe a trend or where Arkansas is not where it was in years 2 and 3 under Muss, and it's been, one could say, a steady decline. I think the saving grace, taking away a bit from that, it's not a narrative, it's what the stats say has happened. Just calling out. There's no cherry picking. I didn't take some games out and leave some in. That's what's happened. But Arkansas did get to a Sweet 16, and so it kind of spoils the notion that it's been a steady downtrend. I think the NCAA tournament, because what you do in March matters, pumps the brakes a little bit on the idea that Arkansas is trending the wrong way. Now, if you want to look at one season in a vacuum and say, well, that's all the trend I need, it is awful. It is awful. If you want to be a little bit more global about it and step back, you say, well, maybe not so bad. This is a bad year, but Eric Musselman. So this is not a hot seat situation with Eric Musselman,
Right.
But I do think it's fair to look at the record and kind of decide for yourself what you think it means. When as a reporter or a journalist, we put stuff out, we're not trying to necessarily. I mean, there are some people that are maybe narrative driven. I'm not, but these are facts, and they're not convenient facts. And so I would look to that as each individual to take their own take, put their own take on it. I think it's my job to report what's actually happening and let people decide for themselves how they view that. And I'm not here to tell anyone how to think about it. It's just, here are the numbers.
Right. And I think, again, like you've said, in our industry, the numbers aren't so important. And what we post on social media, you're trying to get interaction on social media, right? And I think there's a difference between getting interaction and showing hard numbers, right? Like, the interaction, it's not always going to be positive when the numbers are true. And unfortunately for Arkansas, when you really look at the data and the details, yes, March matters. Everything they do in March, that gets exemplified because, that's college basketball's month of the year to shine. That's when, how Tom Izzo made his name, Mike Krzyzewski made his name, all of these top coaches in college basketball, you make your name in March. And I think for Arkansas, the numbers are haven't been great, and that continues to follow the trend of the last season, of 2022 to 2023, and now here 23 to 24. So the numbers show one thing, but again, Arkansas is not going to have the option this year right now as it stands to be in pretty much that March conversation to turn the season around and to end on somewhat of a good note, because at 3-9 in the conference, under 500 with some really, really bad losses, let's be honest, this team's not making the March Madness tournament, and I'd be shocked if they make it to day 2 or 3 of the SEC tournament.
Yeah, I think that's a heavy lift, to be honest. I mean, Arkansas is probably going to finish bottom 4. That's where they're trending now. They've got time to not. But look, Arkansas, 6 games to go. Arkansas needs to win 4 of the 6 to finish above 500. A game above 500 going into the SEC tournament. That's unlikely. This is probably going to be a losing season for Arkansas overall, which hasn't happened since the 2009-10 season under John Pelphrey, his 3rd year at Arkansas. That's been a while, 14 years ago. Arkansas staring down the barrel of that. One more loss out of these next 6, Arkansas is guaranteed a losing record in SEC play for a 2nd consecutive season. These are facts. They're not facts that shy away from the success. But if you're really being honest, Arkansas has not been successful in the SEC going back 2 seasons now. The second Elite 8 team. The Sweet 16 was very nice. It matters. It keeps continuity in the perception of your program. But there's also other things that start to creep in when you start to backslide. And so I don't think it's just one season of a vacuum where Arkansas had problems. I do think that, again, the Sweet 16 run helped. But, you look at this team, there's not been a lot of progress other than being a little more competitive. And then you throw in LSU and Tennessee results, 20-plus point defeats, And these last 6 games, where the other 4 were competitive, Arkansas split the other 4, 2-2, but were competitive in each. But those blowout losses continue to tell you that how dysfunctional things can really be for this team. And we've seen Makai Mitchell play better. Big game yesterday. We talked about that. Tremont Mark's been fairly consistent guy on offense. Not what he was billed to be defensively, but nobody's been that, not even Devo all SEC last year. And then yesterday we saw Caleb Battle with 18 points. He was efficient. He fouled out late. We haven't seen that guy. 12th SEC game. We have not seen that in SEC play from him. Arkansas needed more of that. That's what was envisioned. And so when you're this late in the season, 25 games in, it's a dangerous thing when you're looking at guys you thought months ago were going to be something and you finally see it. If you're just now seeing it in league play, you're probably not doing very well. And so, so while it's good to see some of these guys spark signs of life, especially Makai Mitchell's been consistently good 5 out of these last 6 games, and probably surprised some people how consistent he's been. It's too late. I mean, it's better late than never in terms of can Arkansas put together some more competitive games. But we may still see some blowouts. I mean, they've not completely eliminated that. So there's many ways to look at how this is just a season of dysfunction. I always say it starts from the top and trickles down. I stand by that. Eric Musselman recruited this class. It's his philosophy to mostly turn over his roster. You see more and more of that every year with other college programs in the portal. But and then he's got to figure out how to make the pieces work. He's always been able to do that, and has been gotten credit for that, and it has helped build his name. But also, this is on him, and it's on the players too. But I would say now, if it seems cheap with 6 games to go to kind of continue to pick at things, I don't think so. I mean, there's not going to be a March for this team other than finishing out the regular season early in the month, and then we'll see what they do. You're right. Winning, they might get bounced first, second. I'd be surprised if this team makes it to the Friday quarterfinals, but you never know. That's why they're going to play, and maybe there's something there. Trevor Brazile has now missed 6 games in a row. And I mentioned this in my post-game Hogville Net YouTube Live yesterday. I don't have any source information on this. It's just my own logic I've cooked up, but I'll be surprised if we see him again. Arkansas is not playing for postseason, and I think it may hurt his prospects for the NBA draft more than it could help for a variety of reasons to come back. We'll see what happens. Nick Smith Jr. always made it a priority to get back last year. It actually hurt his draft stock. And I hear people say all the time he didn't really help Arkansas. That's insane. That dude helped Arkansas. There is no Sweet 16 without Nick Smith Jr. and his contributions to that team last year. If I had 20 minutes, I could run through it, break it all down, and folks could either agree or disagree, but would be pretty good data. Trevor Brazile, Arkansas doesn't have a play or a path for that. And this is a different scenario for him. I would say for him, Nick had a little bit of house money because he was an early projection for lottery. He didn't slide out of the first round. He went late. I think with Trevor Brazile, it's a little bit different, and Arkansas is not playing for postseason. So I'll be surprised if we see him again, Evan.
Absolutely. And Kevin, anything else really quickly before we go?
No, that's it. I mean, Arkansas's back on the road. Texas A&M midweek game Tuesday. Quick turnaround. Muss loves those. So a quick turnaround, staying on the road. It's an A&M team that Arkansas, one of its 3 league wins was at home. We remember that game. It was Wade Taylor Jr. versus Tremont Mark as much as anything, and Arkansas had double-digit leads in that game for a lot of it, led most of the way, and then fell behind for the first time in the last 7 seconds, and then Mark hits the game winner. And so that Arkansas's on the road, though, and Arkansas struggles to win. And Starkville couldn't get it done yesterday. They struggled down in College Station as a program historically. I think we're probably looking at the 10th league loss and securing that second consecutive losing record in league play when the Hogs face the Aggies. And then you do have, I think, opportunities ahead to win at home against Mizzou, Vanderbilt. Those are the 2 teams below Arkansas in the standings. You get both at home. You get LSU in the return game at home. LSU's pretty good. Just went on the road and beat South Carolina. I think that, and LSU's been good in some other games and played really well and had a couple of upsets in league play. So, and they took Arkansas behind the woodshed the Tigers did down in Baton Rouge. So, but I think Arkansas does have a path to maybe 3 more wins. If Arkansas can somehow surprise either A&M or the other 2 remaining home games later on at Kentucky and Alabama, then it's not going to salvage your season, but at least you could say, look, there's at least evidence that the program didn't completely implode and that they made some progress somewhere.
And Kevin, always good too to have some momentum trickling into next season. That's going to do it for your Hog Hoops Report with Kevin McPherson. For Kevin McPherson, I'm Evan Kamiko. We'll see you all next Sunday.